Hi everyone, my name is Victor and I'm here today with Monefa. She's also a great student of mine. She's a great astrologer and we're going to be discussing financials today in regards to what to expect in 2020. So what we will do is we are going to be discussing the past trends because as you might know, astrology is all about trends. They are all about cycles and each of the cycles are representing one sector of the financial life of the world. And then after we are going to be discussing what's happening right now in the world in regards to financials. And then at the end, we are going to be giving you a very short overview of what the 12 sign could be expecting financially in the upcoming year. So thank you for joining me, Monefa. How are you doing?
You're welcome. I'm good, thank you. Always a pleasure to collaborate with you, join your classes.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's always good to be connecting with people from the different parts of the world. That's why astrology is great. Monefa lives in London. We used to be apparently living like 5 minutes apart from each other, but we never met before. Now
And we didn't realise until you left to go to Budapest.
Exactly. Now I'm in Hungary and we are all connected. Very interesting.
Very.
So, what do you think about the financial situation of 2020 on a world scale?
There are going to be some repeated patterns. There's going to be some shocks and surprises, and there's going to be some shifts as well, especially with the nodes, because currently the nodes are in Cancer and Capricorn. So the commodities ruled by Cancer, like silver and dairy, they're up at the moment, and commodities like glass and stone are down. But when they shift into Gemini, Saggitarius, prices of wines will go up, and things like gold will go down, and foods from certain countries as well, that will go down. But that'll be around about the summertime when the node shift.
Oh yeah, I mean, North Node and the South Node pretty much actually rules the property business as well. And the reason why I love astrology is because the cycles work very, very, very well. I mean, when we examine financial cycles, we're always going to be having a look at Saturn and Jupiter cycle, Neptune cycle, because actually Neptune rules the inflation and the deflation. Also, just Saturn cycle itself is very...
And of course, Uranus and Taurus as well.
And then Uranus, exactly. And as you mentioned, the North Node and the South Node. So if you don't mind, I just want to be talking about North Node and the South Node a little bit because you brought that up. Yeah. So as I said, North Node and the South Node actually rules the real estate business. And what astrologers have been doing for hundreds of years, actually for a good 200 years now, they are checking the cycles and they're matching those up with the prices. So they do that in the real estate industry as well. And actually, when there seems to be a North Node in the sign of Cancer, the real estate is always on the top. And when the North Node gets into the sign of Capricorn, then that's when the real estate industry seems to be pretty much at the bottom.
Yeah.
So, thinking about 2008, 2009, actually, that's when we had this shift, right? And the real estate industry was just so much at the bottom. And 2018 in November, it was on the top. And obviously, we had a North Node in Cancer. So in regards to the real estate business, actually, the next 9 years, we might be reaching a bottom again. By 2027, it's possible there.
I've been wondering that as well because, you know, like you said, when it goes into Capricorn, there's that squeeze on the price. It just squeezes and squeezes and squeezes it, but it doesn't benefit the people who want to buy property. It goes the other way around. The people in institutions, they benefit from the squeezing. So I think you're right. Definitely, we're going to start seeing a rise and then a decline again for sure.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's going to start slightly dropping approximately about May, June time, 2020.
Yeah.
That's when we're going to be seeing the nodes changing sign anyway.
Exactly.
But the nodes tend to be doing quite well in Gemini and Sagittarius.
Yes,
So
I think they're exalted in Gemini and
yeah,
Sagittarius, aren't
according
they?
to some great astrologers, they are exalted in the sign of Gemini and Sagittarius. So I still believe we're going to be seeing a slight drop, maybe I would say about a 2 to 3% drop. But then later on, after 18 months, we're going to see gradually a drop, most probably. That's what the last 150 years shows us. So actually, if someone wanted to buy a property, I would recommend doing that in 2022 onwards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I have in my mind as well. If I want to get my own place, like buy my own place, there's no point worrying about it now. Wait till after the Saturn return.
Yeah, you know what? I am really thinking about buying a property myself, but I've been postponing it just because I know the prices will drop. And I know it's going to be dropping this year slightly bit, but it's not going to be that huge. So I'm really, really debating with myself as well what to do, because if you want to sell your property, I would say 2020 could be a good year.
Yeah,
2021, maybe the beginning of the year. After, I would be careful with this. And then the next very good period is going to be around 2035. So, you know, how to imagine is like, let's say 2008, you had a property for what, $30,000, okay? And all of a sudden, in 2018, that 30,000 property actually was worth 80,000. So that's a significant profit if you approach it from that way. But
yeah,
unfortunately, from 2022, you know, that 30,000 might be only worth 50. And then gradually going back to kind of, you know, a dip again. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a sad story for the
yeah.
viewers. Yeah, sorry. So what else do you think about our financials?
I definitely see some patterns are being replayed, mixed in with some new patterns. I don't want to get too much into it. I know you've spoken about Pluto and Saturn in another video, but that conjunction it was present at the end of World War One. It was present when World War Two ended, and both periods is when there was a major shift in money. Like after World War One in the UK, they actually introduced the social security system where people would sign on and receive money if they didn't have employment. And then after Second World War, when Uranus had left Taurus by then, the whole banking system started changing, started to become more electronic, where you could kind of have checking accounts and write and deposit checks and things like that. So I definitely think it will change again. What I predict is that it's going to become more digital because of the air energy, how you've got Saturn and Jupiter soon going to Aquarius. In the next 6 years, Uranus will go into Gemini. That's a lot of air energy. And I feel in order to cope with that, we need to evolve and become more digital, or at least more virtual in a sense anyway.
Oh yeah, you are right. I mean, astrologers started tracking the financial astrology approximately in 1890s. So the very first data we are kind of having is the Spanish and the US war. And
I was going to
basically that,
say, when it was the gold rush, wasn't that when the astrologers first noticed Uranus went into Taurus then? Was that the
yeah,
first
that's
time?
right. And with the Spanish and the US war, basically it was all about freeing Cuba up. And then at the end of it, Spain had to give up plenty of their territories. And that was the very first Saturn and Pluto oppositions. And then, as you mentioned, yeah, we had the Saturn and the Pluto conjunction in 1914, which we exactly know what was going on. Saturn is the planet of structure, and Pluto is all about demolishing. So we definitely struggled financially. And then we had the next conjunction happening in 1947. And that's when the Marshall Plan and the Truman Doctrine came in really into the picture. And then after, in the mid-60s, we had Saturn and Pluto opposition going on. And that was about Cold War and Vietnam War. And the very recent one was actually the Saturn and the Pluto energy in 2001, which we call 9/11.
Yeah.
And this is all that was the period when the trade center, the World Trade Center, just kind of collapsed. Now, interestingly enough, I had a look at the US chart. And when this happened, Pluto was actually on 12 degree of Sagittarius, which is the US rising. And Saturn was on 14 degree of Gemini. Obviously, that's the 7th house cusp. And 7th house cusp talks about your open enemies. And the 1st house obviously talks about the country. So I'm not suggesting there is going to be a war, but financially, probably this year could be a huge game changer, really.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think about the UK, from when I last checked the chart, I'm pretty sure the rising here is Capricorn, hence why the election went to the Conservatives, because Capricorn conservatism kind of all runs in the same field. But I'm definitely seeing a trend already happening. Like last year, I remember there was like 2 major glitches in the computer systems for certain banks where people couldn't deposit money, take out money, or make payments. I think that will happen again this year, but I think it will be even worse. I don't think it will be several banks. I think while they're trying to prepare to convert the whole system to go digital, I think there's going to be a major crash. The stock markets, the banks. It could actually happen when Saturn goes retrograde in May, because that week Saturn, Venus, and Jupiter go retrograde. So that means that we could be looking at a major computer glitch where everything just shuts down.
Oh yeah, you're completely right. There is a huge possibility there, surely. I mean, you know, Capricorn rules banks, rules governments, currency, money. And back in the ancient times, actually, it talks about livestock. So very interesting, because when we've got these elemental changes, each of the element rules actually a different industry. So the fire is going to be ruling the game industry, anything to do with export and imports. Earth, as I said, is banking and insurance, and lending money, constructions, buildings. Air is pretty much about transport, education, internet. And then we've got the water, which is pretty much about property, health, alternative, spirituality, esoteric stuffs. So yeah, very interesting if we look at the trends, because you will see that exactly these industries were striving when we had a very strong elementary alignment going on in those, such as, for instance, Uranus.
Absolutely. And when we had the financial crash here in the UK, I remember Saturn at that time was in Virgo. And I remember at that time, people were like overborrowing. They couldn't afford to pay it back. People were remortgaging their house, taking up more credit cards. And the warning was, if you borrow more than what you can afford, it's going to be detrimental for you. And that's exactly what happened. People just didn't get organized. You know, Virgo is all about getting organized, having routine. And people just weren't doing that. They were just like, who cares? And then massive crash. And then people had no money.
Do you think the same could happen now as well? Because obviously Saturn, for instance, has got a lot more strength now in the sign of Capricorn.
I was going to say, because he's in, it's ruling sign Capricorn. It could happen, but I think Jupiter, it depends on what Jupiter's going to do, because Jupiter rules judgment. So it depends on how we're being judged and how we judge others when it comes to certain choices, especially financial choices. And I think the more that we judge others, the less empowered we become about our own relationship with money. So I think it's really important to not be pointing the fingers at other countries before we haven't dealt with our own stuff first.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even though Jupiter might not do so well in the sign of Capricorn, but it's still going to be trining the sign of Virgo and Taurus. And there is going to be a trine happening between Jupiter and Uranus as well at one point. So you know what? We might be seeing a little bit of a financial drop, in my opinion, this year. but they are going to be coming up with a plan. They are kind of going to fix that, banking issue. You did mention something.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I feel the drop is going to come after the next financial year. So after April, round about that week when we have the 3 retrogrades, I feel that's when it could drop, and that's when we might have the computer crash as well. And that's when they're going to have to realize, okay, if we're going to go into cryptocurrency and still have a banking system, we really need to overhaul everything. And I think, like you said, they're going to make that change. And I don't think it's really going to be implemented until Jupiter joins Saturn in Aquarius in December.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think Jupiter is going to be helping there, surely. As we said, the Earth talks about currencies and government. Actually, I do believe that the government is going to put a little bit of money into banks.
Yeah.
We might still see the collapse of banks, though.
Absolutely. Already now at the moment, actually, they announced if certain people with their credit cards, if they're only paying like the bare minimum, they're actually going to have those cards suspended come February. So if you're not able to pay more than the basic interest on your credit cards, you won't be able to use them. They'll get suspended. I think that's one way the banks are trying to protect themselves so they can anticipate what's going to come. But I don't think it's going to necessarily prevent what's going to come anyway.
Yeah. You see, so as I said, Jupiter is going to be trining the sign of Virgo and Taurus. So Jupiter actually might be an indication of what to invest money into, because that might turn a little bit positive. Now, Virgo rules health industry, counseling, it rules agricultural things, trading as well. So what I'm really expecting to see that people are going to be, producing their own product, and they're going to start swapping with each other.
Do you know what also could happen as well? Because at one point we're going to have like an Earth trine as well. The military could actually get more funding from the government.
Hello? Jó, 125-ös kapucsengő. Köszönöm. 125. Best. Oh, of course I forgot to bloody stop the recording. Anyway, I'm going to edit that out. No problem.
No worries. But no, I was going to say, because Virgo also rules the military and police. So I think that the government we might actually see more funding being given in these areas potentially as well. But also, like you said, like Taurus rules music, beauty products, the beauty industry. So again, I think we could be seeing a lot of artists, a lot of musicians kind of getting back more creative control and earning more money that way. I think more people are going to either be interested in spending money in the beauty industry or just getting into the beauty industry in general. But with Uranus there, there's going to be all kind of little new treatments and gadgets and things that are going to be coming out as well anyway.
You see, where I'm seeing a little bit of a fall is more to do with the food industry, because obviously Saturn-Pluto, all the energies opposing Cancer. And Cancer rules food, restaurants, hospitality.
And so does Taurus as well. And I'm thinking that by the time the North Node goes into Taurus, I mean, I know that's a bit of a way yet, but by the time it goes into Taurus, food prices are going to be sky high. Like crop prices, dairy prices, meat prices are going to go up, like really go up.
Yeah, I agree. And as I said in my previous video, we tend to be running out of some type of food which we are so used to right now, such as rice and coffee and tea leaves.
Exactly.
So we might be seeing the increase. Yes, so this could be very typical that some of the prices, meat prices and so forth, could be reaching the sky actually. So I do agree with that.
I think
and
people
also rules retail and machinery as well, lifestyle and medical centers.
It's so funny you said medical, because you know what else is going to go up when the North Node goes into Gemini? Certain medical instruments, especially because Quicksilver, whatever medical stuff that's used for mercury or whatever's used with Mercury is going to go up in price. So like thermometers, certain machines, certain pieces for machines, that's going to go up in price as well, which is going to be really stressful for healthcare systems because it's going to be eating up more of their budget. And most healthcare systems haven't got a budget to begin with. So,
yeah, I completely agree with you. And how do you feel about the currency issues?
I honestly, since Pluto has been in Capricorn and then since Saturn's been in there, I haven't seen a big jump in price in their currency, because I'm checking between the pound and the dollar and the pound and the euro, and that Saturn restrictive energy is like it's keeping it so tight. I don't honestly see a leap in currency until Jupiter goes into Aquarius.
Currency, or the inflation deflation, is ruled by actually Neptune. So the Neptune has got a 14-year cycle. And again, I'm not going to go into such depth because, you know, everyone can actually look that up. But Neptune currently is in the sign of Pisces. And Neptune does well in water signs, typically. One thing I would definitely recommend is people shouldn't be buying gold and silver, as you just said. What I'm really expecting is when Neptune actually is going to be changes sign, and she's going to go into Aries, we are going to be seeing a huge increase in interest rates. You know, that could be really typical there. Now, obviously, the Neptunian energy is going to get sextiled by all the Capricorn energy. So I do believe that the stock market at the moment is kind of safe, but I am seeing a huge dip coming up in 2027, especially. Again, considering the Neptune cycles and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I think if once we're in Scorpio season, we have to be careful because then that's going to be squaring the planets in Aquarius. So I think later in the year, we have to be very careful. That's when the currency could go up. In fact, it could go really dodgy before it goes up again, which is what happened last year with the election. It went down, and then just after the election results came in, it went up again for like 2 days, and it went back down again. So I think that's going to be the same trends towards the end of this year as well.
Exactly, could be. And, you know, we shouldn't be forgetting about Pluto just itself. And because Pluto rules money on a world scale. And Pluto will enter the sign of Aquarius in 2024.
But in mythology, Pluto is actually the god of wealth as well.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you know, I think from 2024, I think they are going to be definitely putting so much money into the environment protection. I think that's what one of the government's most important perspective is going to be.
Absolutely. And I think by then as well, coins and money might just be souvenirs. You could buy them, you could be looking at credits. Like, you know, we see it inside a lot of sci-fi films now, but we're seeing it more and more and more because we're getting closer to that reality where currency is literally just going to be universal credits. No matter what your constellation or your galaxy is, it's just credits.
What do you feel about the cryptocurrency? Because many of my clients and viewers ask me about whether it's worth playing with it. Do you think it can collapse?
Well, do you know what I think is funny? The main cryptocurrency stock market is called eToro, which I think is so funny because toro means bull in Spanish, and Taurus is animal is the bull. And I remember when Uranus first went retrograde in Taurus, I remember there was something that went majorly down with cryptocurrency. It wasn't just Bitcoin, it was a couple of others that started to dip in value ever so slightly. And then when Uranus went direct again, it started going back up. I don't think it's going to be as unstable as people actually think because it's so digital. I think if it was more material based, then I'd say, yeah, be careful. But because it's so digitized, it's very Uranian in itself, I think that's what's actually going to help it to benefit and help it to survive and eventually outdo paper notes and coins as well.
I agree with you. I think people will have to watch out for the Uranus periods, especially retrograde periods, direct motions, and so forth. Now, going back in history a little bit, when Uranus actually first appeared not first, but when it appeared last in the sign of Taurus, that's when actually the dictators appeared.
I was going to say, because wasn't that when Hitler rose up and said, I can make Germany great again, I can give you money back in your pocket, the Deutschmark or whatever is going to be worth something again, and people brought it up. They lapped it up, but it's pretty similar now. We've got similar kind of dictators now telling people, I'm going to make such and such country great again, and let's 10 days. It's a similar thing, and with karma, until we understand what karma is trying to teach us, it will always keep playing itself out.
Exactly. Unfortunately, I'm expecting some Taurus interest countries to see some dip in their financial situations. I think on a world scale, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Taurus can be a little bit of a challenge because of the Uranus. Now, I'm expecting to see some type of bank collapses in Germany this year, though.
What about Switzerland? Because I've been wondering about Switzerland as well, because they've been getting away with it for a while, and now I'm thinking, can they get away with it again?
So what we could do, or what viewers can do, because I think plenty of our viewers are going to be interested whether their business survives. So what you can do is actually pull up a chart for the birth of your own business. And that's usually something to do with the very first day when you open the doors. And then just seeing how these planetary cycles are playing out there. So one of them is, as I said, Saturn and Jupiter cycle, which happens every 20 years. Then you are having a Neptune cycle, which is something to do with 14 years. And we've got the Pluto cycle and the Saturn cycle itself. Actually, Saturn rules such things like cheap things. So actually, we might be seeing that some electronic prices will drop quite significantly, especially maybe between the period of March to July. Because Saturn rules cheap
Maybe,
things.
but it is going to be squaring Uranus at some point as well. So it depends.
Yeah, it will be squaring, but it's going to be only, this year it's going to be only a few months. What I would really say in regards to cryptocurrency and prices is really watching out what's going to happen between March till July.
Yeah.
And that is going to be giving us a flavor what to expect from 2021 onwards.
That's why I think there's going to be that major computer crash, because I see them trying to convert the whole system, and then they're going to realize that they can't convert it all in one go. You're going to have to do it in increments at a time. And I think every time they've tried to do it previously in one go, it's just crashed it. And I think this time the stock market's going to crash with the banks as well. So it's going to be a very interesting summer.
Yes. I've had a look at a couple of major companies' charts, such as Apple. Actually, I am seeing a little bit of a decline, a good 10% decline actually in Apple's chart. And I think it's going to be because someone else is going to be appearing on the market this year, who is going to be trying to take over. And actually, they seem to be, astrologically speaking, quite successful as well.
And you've already got Apple Pay, you've got Google Pay, but Facebook, funny enough, are bringing out their own cryptocurrency, and they're calling it Libra, the sign of everybody else, of relationships, which I think is very interesting as well. And ever since they've announced that, their value on the market dipped slightly as well, which I found interesting.
Oh yeah, I just want to give a little bit of an advice to people. I think as Uranus rules startup companies, startup businesses, I think one of the trends from now on is going to be something to do with having your own company, being your own boss. And this is really what the Capricorn energy is really suggesting as well.
I think that those seeds were kind of planted when Uranus was in Aries, because Uranus is in Aries is like, liberate yourself to be the individual that you want, to be creative, to be unique. Now it's in Taurus, it's like, okay, how can you liberate yourself to make money and, you know, hold on to things and store things how you want. So yeah, there's like, it's definitely working its way around for sure.
Exactly, bringing that independency level down on a material level. And that's what Uranus can be doing there. Of course, we're talking about two fixed signs. So fixed means talk about stability. So Uranus can shake up stability a little bit in the sign of Taurus. And, you know, Aquarius is a sign which really believes in freedom and believes in themselves. So maybe Uranus, by that square towards Aquarius, might shake up their people's belief system a little bit, or people's trust in themselves.
Yeah.
I think going forward, having people's business is going to be very, very prominent.
Definitely.
If I were them, I would be investing money, something to do with health industry, something to do with agricultural, natural type of things. I'll give you an example. One of my friends, she has got a very strong Virgo trait. And she prepares natural soap bars. She doesn't use any chemicals at all whatsoever. She makes everything at home. And it became so popular for her that she can't cope. She kind of had to tell people that, you know what, I can't do anymore for you because I'm at the moment I'm doing stuff for 200 people. You can't match the quality
control with the demand.
Yes, she can't cope with the demand. She went for the Christmas market. She prepared so much. Within 2 hours, everything gone. And when I had a consultation with her last year, I said, go somehow into the health industry. Go somehow into the lifestyle things of life, because that seems to be an element of a boost in your career. And she did. And now she is thinking what she can do to be able to cope the demand she's having.
It's like in business astrology, when I do business astrology with people, I always like to see, like you said, where their Uranus is, because there's certain houses where that Uranus will be phenomenal for them, especially like in the 9th house, but Jupiter as well, because where the Jupiter is, it can actually show where you can potentially overdo it, and it can actually be counterproductive as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
but my Jupiter is in the 3rd house in Virgo, and I know that sometimes I can really overdo it.
Yeah, I get you. Great. How do you feel about what's going to happen on a personal level to our 12 signs? So what would you say to Aries rising sign people?
Aries, right? Well, they've already got Chiron there at the moment as well, and this is going to be squaring them. This stuff going on in Capricorn. So I don't feel it's going to be doom and gloom now. I feel because it's Aries, it's going to kind of give people that kick up the bum that they may have been looking for a while, where it's like, okay, I've been sitting on this for a while. Now it's stuffed in my face. Now I have to deal with it, kind of thing. And, you know, if the Aries people do choose to take action and take charge and initiate, they can actually get a lot done, because Chiron will be able to heal the wounds, and then, you know, you'll be able to heal the fears that Saturn will be bringing as well. So yeah, if Aries people take action, they can definitely gain something now. And especially because both the signs are cardinal as well, even though there's a square, that square won't be too bad.
These two signs are 4 signs away from each other. So if they are thinking about selling their properties, I would definitely be I would be a little bit cautious, because they might have got the tendency to sell it for less, for instance. And I think they should be just a little bit careful with that. Now, obviously, all these planetary alignments are happening in their 10th house, which is pretty much trining the second house elements with the Uranus. So they can see a little bit of a sudden boost maybe financially, but it might not be on a long run though.
No,
So,
I think maybe the financial boost will come more if it's connected to their career than something like property. Like if it's somebody that's like launching something, like launching a product or launching even an album, a painting, something that can propel them into healthier finances. But I agree with you, if they try and do the property thing first, that's going to be a big risk, and it might not work out as well as they liked.
exactly. How do you feel about Taurus?
Taurus, that's the 9th house, yes?
That's right.
Ah, I feel a lot of Taurus people are going to be really. Actually, there's two that I know already, and I'm thinking, yeah, they're going to be looking at definitely how they travel. Some of them are going to be thinking about cutting back on travel because they may have been overdoing it, like looking at the expenses, and it's like, oh, okay, I can put that £1,000 something else, maybe in savings or something. I think some Taurus people are also going to be looking at addressing any debt, like if they've been to university and they've still got student debt, loans, things like that. They're going to be looking at how they can try and either reduce the debt, pay off the interest, or consolidate those loans so that the debt doesn't get bigger, essentially.
If they want to study something, actually with all those trine elements, they can invest a little bit of money into their studies as well. But I would say, because we're talking about a strong Uranian energy, they need to be able to see whether this is really their long-term goals or not.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest somebody getting 20 grand worth of loans to do media studies if they don't really want to do it. It has to be something where they know that even if they're having a rubbish day, they're still going to feel enthusiastic about doing said field.
Yeah, exactly.
And they can
Taurus,
as well, of course, is a fixed sign. So once they fixate literally on something, that will be it for them.
I agree. I think Taurus rising sign really need to make sure that they are 100% sure about whether their business is they're gonna benefit from it. I think that's hugely important. How do you feel about Gemini?
Well, I know Gemini really doesn't like a lot of Capricorn energy as it is, because it's like, even though it is cardinal, but it's like, Gemini is mutable, and it's like, it's too restrictive for Geminis. However, I do genuinely believe that some Geminis this year are going to finally get a breakthrough, because I feel like up till now they've been getting a blockage in their finances, like they've been waiting on either receiving something or they've lost something, or if they split up from partners, they've had to really look at redoing all their finances again. But I feel like a lot of Geminis now, especially if they got married when Jupiter is in Sagittarius, I feel a lot of them are going to get a financial breakthrough this year, where they're actually going to be able to sit down and assess, how can I better improve receiving money from others and giving money to others as well. But also power as well, because 8th house is power, and Pluto is the natural ruler of the 8th house anyway. So a lot of Geminis are also going to be thinking about, well, how do I want to be seen to others? How do I want to assert my power, my boundaries to others, so I can receive more money for them, or resources, or whatever it is?
As you said, actually, that 8th house, which is getting triggered by all these planetary alignments, is the house of investments also. So Gemini people might want to be investing money into a business. Gemini rules business anyway.
That's funny that you say that, because I know 2 Geminis, and one of them is about to start her business, and another one is just waiting to hear back from this assessment, because she wants to do a cooking business from home, so she has to wait to hear back to see if it's suitable and if it's going to be like clean enough and all of that. So yeah,
I think for Gemini rising sign, it's going to be very important to combine the business somehow with deliveries as well.
Yeah.
Now,
and I think the digital and the internet will really work well for Geminis as well, not making it too manual and having machines play a big part of that for them.
I completely agree. And just think about the home deliveries, how much they
Mm,
have increased, for instance, in the recent years. So
yeah,
actually, that could be quite a great business opportunity for Gemini.
definitely. Didn't a company recently test out delivery through drones or something like that as well, rather than actual postman? I think it was
Okay,
Amazon.
I'm not 100% sure. I haven't heard of that.
I think it was, yeah.
Um, I know that, for instance, in the food industry, it has become such a huge topic. So if you really think about McDonald's as a huge company, they really started doing that in the last few years. And one of the reasons is because they didn't have enough space anymore in their restaurants. So they wanted to kind of eliminate the queues, and
And
we'd
not have
rather
people in
serve the food to your door, just don't kind of come in, type of feeling. That's what they went through.
I mean, to be honest, after 11 p.m., I wouldn't want people coming in if I was working in McDonald's either, because I've seen the states of some of the restaurants. So I can't say I blame them. But yeah, I've definitely, yeah, you're correct. Home delivery systems definitely on the up. Just online shopping in general is definitely gone up. People just find it a lot easier to just, again, it really matches that mutable energy of Gemini. Oh, click here, scroll here, click here, click there, as opposed to having to walk to the shop and pick it up. And you know, it's so much easier when it's online.
That's right. And just one more thing about Gemini. If you really think about Gemini, we've got the most wealth-related fixed stars in the sign of Gemini. It's proven that the richest people come from Geminis.
That's so funny because David Bowie's fourth house is in Gemini, where he has the North Node in Uranus. And if there's one thing that he really amassed over the years was houses in various countries that cost hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, Gemini rising sign will see the extremes. Some people are going to get rich, and some might see a little bit of a deflating energy in their financials, but
And
definitely
because it's
it's
the
like a
eighth,
polarity.
and because it's the eighth house as well, it will depend if some of them are actually partnered or on their own as well. Because a lot of Geminis would have got married when Jupiter was in Sagittarius. So it'll be very interesting to see how some people are dealing with the finances now they're coupled up.
Exactly. Or when Jupiter was there, they might have had business partnerships going on as well, which they might be manifesting from this year. How do you feel about Cancer?
Oh, I'm a Cancer rising. For Cancers, all I will say is we really have to not take things too personally and see the practicality for what it is, because Capricorn is in our seventh house, and it can be very easy, especially with the stellium, to take things too personally when we're feeling sensitive and be like, oh, it's an attack on me. It's not. Capricorn is about efficiency and, you know, stability and getting things done. So I think for a lot of Cancers, they're going to have to make a decision this year. Am I going to carry on doing things as they are, hoping they're going to get better? Or am I going to make some serious changes in my relationships, even if that means cutting some people off, asserting healthier boundaries, forming new partnerships, if it's business, friends. I'm not just talking romantic either, from my personal experience. But yeah, there's a choice for Cancers, and it really is up to us how our relationships look on from here out.
I agree. And you know, their second house is ruled by the sun. So actually, January could be a little bit tough for them financially. But I would say by the time Sun gets into the sign of Aries, which is going to be about the whole April, basically, they might be seeing a little bit of an financial increase there. And then also something to do with the summer or too. But the rest of the year, it could be a little bit of a challenge because all the opposition which is coming from the seventh house energy. And I would say that Cancer rising sign also need to be aware of tendencies towards codependency. So either the partner is really dependent on my financials, or I am depending on my partner's financials.
Yeah,
that could be the case.
I would definitely recommend any Cancers, including myself, going into relationships this year to really have those boundaries established from the get-go. Otherwise, you're going to fall into really murky waters further down the road.
I agree. How is Leo doing?
Oh, well, we're great as well. Yeah, that's the 6th house. It's going to be a bit tough for Leos as well, because there's always an aspect to Leo where it's like, can I just lie in the sun and worry about it later? And Capricorn's like, no, do it now. So again, Leos are going to have that choice, a bit similar to Cancers, where it's going to be like, if you really want the result and you want to see, if you want the attention, want to be the center of attention, you've got to put the work in to be the center of attention. That means you've got to be consistent, you've got to be organized, you're going to have some structure. And also the 6th house is also, you know, who we work with, and enmity as well, people that we don't get on with. And with Pluto and Saturn and that conjunction, Leos have to be very, very careful. You know, choose your battles wisely. Do you really need to get into an argument with everybody that you work with, or only some people? Because getting into an argument with everybody could actually make things go a lot slower and not give you the result you want.
I agree, yes. The confrontations with bosses and work colleagues could be a matter there. Now, if Leo rising has got their own business, which kind of always recommended for Leo rising people anyway, actually, I do believe they might be seeing a little bit of a boost towards the end of the year, the last 4 months of the year.
I feel like a lot of them will be able to clear their financial debt. If any have any debts, that will be the period that you mentioned where they'll be able to clear them, especially if when Jupiter's on that critical degree. Because one thing I've noticed with Jupiter, especially in the 6th house, just when he's on like the 28th, 29th degree, he will tend to kind of like gift people like a large sum of money to kind of like pay off any debts that they might have, or any like on-standing bills, anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. And you know that Mars is also going to be trining their rising sign. So it could be a growth on a personal level, surely, but that Mars definitely wants them to put enough effort into it, to be passionate about what they do, to be a go-getter. And obviously their 2nd house is ruled by Mercury. So the Mercury cycles could be a little bit of a challenge financially for the Leo rising people. And Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year. So now again, Mercury is in the sign of Capricorn, right? So there might be a little bit of a challenge in January, but I do believe when Mercury shifts into Aquarius, we're going to see a bit of a relief for them. And
apart from the ones with a natal Mercury retrograde, because that tends to behave very differently for those people if they've got it natally.
The ones who have got retrograde natally, I think they are so used to the retrograde periods, they won't be feeling the retrograde motions that much this year on a financial level. Yeah, so and also I think Mercury is going to be, Leo rising sign is going to be doing quite well, especially something to do with the August-September period. They could be doing quite well there, business-wise. But because there is this inconjunction going on between Leo and the Capricorn energy, as you said, they're going to have to watch out though. Because inconjunctions could really go 2 ways. So if I were a Leo rising sign, I would definitely be thinking about how I can incorporate health type of business into my profile. And I think this year is all about thinking through what else I can offer to others.
Exactly. And that's why I feel like some are going to be looking at whether they got debts or not as well, because I feel some Leos are going to be looking at, right, how much savings have I got? How much debt do I have? is it really lucrative for me to go into my own business right now or stay in the job? And there's going to be some Leos that are going to be deciding if they want to stay in a job where they're working for somebody else, or they're going to work for themselves as well. Because again, Pluto is all about, you know, he rules wealth. It's all about empowerment. And in order to gain wealth, first of all, you have to kind of let a part of you die, but you also have to become very independent as well. So,
yeah. How do you feel about Virgo rising?
I mean, Virgos are always careful with money anyway. So,
Yeah.
like really careful with money. I think actually where they could trip themselves up, because it's a lot of earth energy, they might take it for granted and become a bit too obsessed and become too critical to the point where actually they don't bring in anything at all.
Yeah, I think they just need to go. I mean, carry on doing your Virgo traits, you know, be precise, go through the whole process. But yes, don't become too perfectionist about the business you do. I think for Virgo rising sign, if you've got your own business, this year is more about chasing your customers to come in. So it's all about advertisement. It's all about taking some risks, because all that planetary alignment is going to be happening in your 5th house, which is quite a lucky house anyway. So we are kind of liking that, but you're going to have to take some risks.
Yeah, and also as well, because it's Mercury ruled sign and Mercury is about commerce, they're going to have to go out of their comfort zone and talk more to people that they may not like or they may not get on with, so they can actually branch out and get bigger. But also with Virgos as well, it's about their health, because Virgos they're very, very, like Cancers, they're really, really good at overdoing it and then making themselves sick. And with this earth energy, that can be so easily done, because they're on like a really good roll, their foot's on the gas, they've got a really nice consistency going, and then they're not taking a rest, they're not taking a break. And then before they know it, they get really ill and then they have to take a break.
I agree. But I think if they do well in regards to the health matters, this year could be the year of manifestation for them.
Definitely, because Pluto can transform previous habits, previous routines, and Saturn can make sure that they stay there in the long term.
Because their 2nd house is ruled by Libra, so they're going to have to watch out for Venus retrograde period, May, June, July, even August. So I would say they're going to have to watch out for the August period. So if, let's say, Virgo rising sign works in catering industry, try to think outside the box. You know, maybe go on the street and do sampling there, or go and then go and speak to people on the street, do leaflets, and so on. These are going to be, I think, the keys for Virgo rising sign. If they work in the health industry, again, do open days or bits and pieces, which is completely against what you usually do. So it's more about coming away from your old patterns and then take risks, think outside the box.
But if for the Virgos in like the military or the police as well, I definitely see some travel involved, but they're gonna get like an increase in money from the government as well.
Yeah. How about Libra?
Libra, this would be the 4th house, yes?
That's right.
Oh, wow. For some people, they're definitely, you know what? For some Libras, they could actually be, it could be to do with property. It might be to do with like property within the family, or they might be looking at property themselves. But when those node shift, they've got to be really careful when they do this, because the node shift can redetermine whether they, buy a house for like 50 grand more. So they have to be very, very careful what time this year they decide to buy, sell, whatever.
I agree with you completely. Some of the Libra rising sign might have been thinking about selling their property. So again, I would see whether it's on the right price. You know, Capricorn is all about cheapness, so they tend to go under the price, which sometimes is very suspicious for others also. So if they want to sell their
Especially for a
property,
Libra,
they,
the Libra's gonna be like, well, what does it look like then?
yes, exactly. So if you are planning to sell your property, or if you have been struggling to sell your property, you might see that more about May and August time to be having a manifestation there.
Any
Also,
Libras that have got people who work in banking though, or property, they will do a lot better.
yeah, because it triggers the second and the eighth house, right, with that Mars and Taurus energy.
Yeah.
Yes, also I just wanted to say that because the second and the eighth house pretty much talks about inheritance as well, and the fourth house is triggered. If that is the case, you might be seeing towards the end of the year some struggles around that with that Mars retrograde period, because Mars is going to be falling into your seventh house.
That's
So
the
just
thing.
watch out for that.
Yeah, because some, people assume if unfortunately somebody passes, it means, oh, I might get inheritance. Well, you could be getting taxes as well, because eighth house is taxes. So you don't know what tax bills could be coming in. So yeah, definitely be
Yeah,
careful with this.
exactly. And there could be some rivals as well with some family members also. How about Scorpio rising sign?
Third house. I think Scorpio, this is the time for Scorpios. I mean, they're adept at transforming anyway, but this is really the year to get more skills under their belt. But I think especially skills that are really focused and refined on a field that they want to earn money in. So if for any Scorpio out there that maybe, I think a lot of Scorpios are kind of feeling at the end of the road of certain professions, certain careers, and now they're feeling like, I want to go into this profession. I want to go into something more spiritual now. I don't want to do that job anymore. I don't want to work in the office anymore. So I feel like for those Scorpios, it's really about just getting the knowledge and getting the skills and getting that under your belt and implementing that and applying that. And that might involve you traveling. That might involve you having to communicate with more people you haven't spoken to before. Contracts as well. For some Scorpios, it might be to do with property, because they might be negotiating a contract. Certain times of the year that contract negotiation may go better than other times of the year as well. So again, Scorpios need to be very careful, perhaps seek out an astrologer to see when is the best time to do that.
I agree. And I think maybe some financial security could be coming through their communication. So people who want to be publishing their books, Scorpio rising, maybe this is going to be the right time. But as Monefa said, I think it's all about gaining new skills as well, and trying to create a financial abundance throughout your throughout your new skills. Because Capricorn talks about the old things which need to be left behind.
So I just thought of as well, for some Scorpios, they might, if they've got siblings, money might be a contentious issue. Like either the issue of money will actually get the siblings to come together and problem solve. Like, right, how can we tackle this? How can we help our parents, whoever? But for some siblings, money's going to get so contentious this year that they're just going to stop talking to each other.
Yeah. And just another very last tip for the Scorpio rising sign: watch out for your health, especially at the second part of the year, because that could be something which might block you of achieving what you really want to. What about Sagittarius rising? So that's an interesting one, because we are experiencing the energy in the second house.
I mean, that Sagittarius energy is very adept at attracting money and financial kind of fortune anyway. I'm not saying that all Sagittarius are going to be lucky automatically. I'm not saying that, but they're going to have a slightly easier time than the other signs, because they're very, compared to Capricorn, they can think outside the box, like the box doesn't exist. So if they need to find a new way to bring money in, I think Sagittarius people can do that very well, especially actually when the South Node goes into Sagittarius. They just need to be very careful with where they're putting their focus though, because they might have their focus in too many things and then nothing gets done either.
Yeah. You know, when Jupiter was in their own sign, they might have come up with plenty of ideas. And this Capricorn energy is actually in the second house, talks about working with those ideas, what you might have had in the last 1 year, and then working towards manifestation. I mean, Capricorn energy talks about slowly but surely. So Sagittarius, you might not be seeing sudden successes, but don't give up on your goals. Just stick to your guns and then go forward, because actually you might be seeing some boost coming from 2021 when Jupiter is going to be sextile in your rising sign.
Yeah,
so that would be quite an exciting period. And it's like laying down the foundation financially for them, which is coming more in 2022. That should be financially a great year for them.
I think the main danger is for Sagittarius to put all the eggs in one basket too early, because they get impatient. And Capricorn energy is about being very patient. So I think the more patient Sagittarius are this year, the better 2021 will go for them.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also believe that taking risk a little bit is also very recommended for Sagittarius.
Yeah.
Too. But they've got that tendency anyway. So they are very adventurous.
Very.
How about Capricorn rising?
Well, I know quite a few Capricorns, and I'm already seeing that they're making their status known. They want people to know, this is my business, this is what I do, this is how much I want to make, this is how I'm getting it done. Very, very methodical, step by step. However, the danger is that Capricorns can become too obsessed with materials, too obsessed with money. That is the real danger here. I mean, Capricorns like material results anyway, which usually is in the form of money. With this energy, they can become so obsessed with it that they don't even see the end goal anymore, because they're just like, oh, I have to get it, and not actually seeing what it takes to get to that place.
And you know, their second house is Aquarius, which is again in traditional astrology ruled by Saturn. So that's going to be this 12th sign from the second house. They need to be aware of potential financial losses. They also need to be aware where they put the money in, because that 12th house could be talking about secret enemies. It could be talking about theft. So just watch out for your money, because you might become a victim of some fraud, for instance. And
keep track of your money as well, especially when Jupiter goes into Aquarius. I think December the 19th, it goes into Aquarius. So for some Capricorns, if they've been doing the work all year, they could get a really nice bonus just before Christmas.
Yeah, I agree with that. Surely, towards the end of the year, it looks a little bit brighter for Capricorn rising. I would say especially October, November, December. But the next 9 months could be a little bit of a challenge. I think it's all about coming out of their depression and then shifting their energy into a project, a more like a creative project.
It's that exactly. It's the opposite balance that what Cancer had, where Cancer has to be a bit less emotional. Capricorn is going to be a little less material, and realize that yes, you know, money is important, but you cannot gain wealth if you're not having real connections with other people, and their 7th house is ruled by Cancer.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, maybe actually Capricorn rising sign this year could invest into some creative project, because we've got a fixed star there on 16 degree, 15 degree of Capricorn. So especially if you've got your sun or the rising sign around the 15 degree of Capricorn, you might want to be thinking about entertainment, because we've got a fixed star called Vega, and that talks about creativity, artistic type of talents.
That's
So
that
maybe
15
Capricorn
degrees
could
as
be
well, isn't
investing
it?
money into that.
Is that 15 degrees as well?
15 degrees of Capricorn, yeah.
Yeah, that's where my Neptune and my Uranus is in Capricorn.
So creativity through spirituality, here we go. Your very first video with me. How do you feel about Aquarius?
Aquarius, they're going to be struggling a lot at the beginning of this year because Aquarians like to feel free anyway, and Capricorn energy doesn't make them feel free. Even though they're both ruled by Saturn, the Saturn energy is very different in both signs. And I think at the moment, especially up until the summertime, especially, Capricorns need to be, not Capricorns, Aquarius people need to be thinking more about what's going on behind the scenes, what's going on in their dreams as well. And also where they may not be looking as much, because that might be where they may have weaknesses as well. So they need to be very mindful of that.
I agree. Uranus is square in your rising sign. You've got all the energy going on in your 12th house. So maybe I would say Aquarius shouldn't be taking so much risk this year. No. I would say you might not want to be changing business profile. Maybe you just want to be going with the flow. Yeah, you can start thinking outside the box, but
don't make anything concrete just yet.
But yes, a business swap, maybe not necessarily a great idea. Even though there might be some planetary alignments, which is going to be helpful, still it could be a little bit of a challenge there.
Yeah, I feel like this year for Aquarius people is really about laying down the groundwork, getting their knowledge about, you know, who's going to be their target audience, especially if they're using the internet and using technology. Find out who your target audience is, lay down the groundwork so that in 2021, you've got Saturn there, you've got Jupiter there, you can just go straight ahead.
And let's not forget, Jupiter rules their second house, which is also falling into the 12th. You know, and that's a very spiritual house. So Aquarius rising sign people need to be reconnecting with their wallet, basically. So saving money, being a little bit cautious about what they spend on, I think it's going to be very important for them.
And take very good note of your dreams. Like if you've got a dream journal, definitely write them down, because whatever fears will be coming up in your dreams will be connected to your financial fears as well.
Oh, that's a very good tip for them, surely. And last but not least, let's see Pisces rising sign, which is also my rising.
And that's the 11th house, yes?
That's right.
Okay. So a lot of you are definitely going to be thinking about how you are seen, how you want to be seen with your friends, and also through your public image as well. Actually, 11th house is actually quite a good place to have Capricorn and the Capricorn stellium. So I think a lot of you guys would do pretty well.
I agree.
Yeah.
And by planetary joy, it's Jupiter's favorite placement as well. So it's looking up actually for Pisces rising sign, because Taurus is in, Uranus is in the second, and it's going to be trining most of the time the 11th house energy. So it's going to be supporting your long-term goals. Maybe Pisces should be watching out again between the March and the July period, when Uranus and Saturn and Jupiter are going to be squaring. Yeah. Maybe that's not going to be the time when you need to come up with new ideas and then launch something. But overall, this could be quite a positive year for Pisces rising sign. I feel like they are going to be starting new roads, new ways to earn money.
With the trine that you mentioned as well, because it's in the earth signs and we're talking about a water sign as well, they might feel a bit outside their comfort zone at first, but I think once they get used to communicating more, starting with people that they're comfortable with and then people that they don't know, Pisces people can do very well this year, especially ones that have their own business, ones that work in the entertainment industry. Definitely.
Exactly. I mean, Pisces rules dancing, spirituality, singing, entertainment, creativity.
Oh, you know what we might be seeing more of then as well? We might be seeing more artwork this year then as well, in general.
Yeah, oh yeah, surely. And because all these planetary alignments, first of all, happening in the 11th house, which is publicity. So to a certain extent, Pisces rising sign is required to show their face, not hiding away from becoming a public image. It's more about getting out there, show your face, and then you can see some financial result of that. And Mars
Oh, yeah.
retrograde is going to be happening in your second house. And that's going to be that's going to be a period of time when actually you might be putting more effort into your financials as well. It's going to be square in your 11th house, but in this case, because of the placement of Jupiter, I don't think you're going to feel that strongly.
No, actually, I think because Jupiter is the a ruler of Pisces as well, I think that a lot of Pisces will have an opportunity to make those dreams become a reality rather than just having them just as dreams.
I think that Mars can drain them slightly bit emotionally, and that's what they need to be paying attention to stay on top.
And for a couple of them as well, for any that have any older siblings, again, it's a bit like the I think like the Scorpios have to be very careful that they don't let money become the discord between them and that sibling if they do have older siblings.
Yeah. Well, guys, this was our prediction for the 12th sign, very, very briefly. You do need to remember that these are energies we are talking about. And you're going to have a look at your personal chart. You're going to have to have a look, where the natal planets are coming from. And then let's say gathering in the sign of Capricorn. That's going to be very, very important. Yes, so Monefa, thank you very much for having me and joining me today and giving
Always
us
a pleasure,
a
Victor.
great insight.
I love how you teach astrology. You just make it really fun, and I'm looking forward to the Horary astrology class as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much, which is starting tomorrow, which I'm very excited about. So thank you, everyone. If you like the video, don't forget to press like. And maybe you
share it as well with your friends.
Oh yeah, please share with your friends and then subscribe to our channel too, so that we can notify you about great videos in the future. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a lovely day. See you soon, Monefa.
Bye.